Hey everybody, welcome back to the Resistance Broadcast. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thursday show, discussion time, and we're going to talk about when will Ahsoka Tano die already? Not already. We don't want her to die, but enough already with the Ahsoka, I think. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're going to have a discussion later. Pretty much just speculating on the fate of the character, because it's been one of those things that has been highly discussed, and we should have some fun with that a little bit later. With me, as always, is Lacey and James. Lacey, what's going on? Is that a Mando Fan Show Season 2 shirt that I spot?
It is.
I can spot t-shirts, just like I could spot voices in commercials.
Whatever.
I've been rotating the same, 3 shirts for the past probably 2 months, guys.
You know what's funny? This was full disclosure, and this might be, Lacey, you can decide whether this is dirtbag mode or not. I think this has been sitting on that chair over there since the last time I wore it.
Which was
But I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. But I only wore it to podcast that time. So I don't know if that's, I don't know what that means or what that is.
I don't think that's dirtbag mode.
Yeah, you're wearing for an hour.
All right. Okay. Just making sure we're good there. Hanging out the car window for a little bit. You know, good to go. Fresh. James, you're wearing a Ronin shirt? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
At
Did
Disney.
that come with the book? Or you bought it in Disney?
Yeah, at Disney. Yeah. Behind the scenes here, John and Lacey see a different camera, so I have to go higher for them to see a little bit more. But yeah.
Oh, I like the kanji.
It's
Kanji
crazy.
down the side.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
What our audience doesn't know is we actually can't see James at all. We see nothing. So
I mean, it's a podcast, so we just turn the cameras off.
right. Well, it's like when Lacey first started with us, she would bury herself in a closet with no light. It would just feel like she's there,
I
right?
had one light.
No, I know.
Why are you laughing?
Because you were so defensive of that one light. You're like, I had the one light.
Whoa.
I had the
Well,
light.
because you
had
make it
one
sound like
light,
I'm
yeah.
sitting in a closet in the
No,
dark. I
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
sitting in the dark.
No, but we've come a long way. Though.
I do voice work, so I would record the podcast because we wouldn't do a video version in my recording studio, which would be in a closet, which normally it's not that dark, but at night you're in a closet. So I would have one little lamp, like one of those clip lamps that you have when in elementary school. Yeah, I got one of those. It's a clip lamp.
I'm sure we have other listeners that are doing their own podcasts and stuff, and it always surprises me when I join in on other podcasts how many people record without being able to see each other. I'm like, why don't you guys just turn the video on? It's
yeah,
like,
and then that stinks because you talk over each other, and yeah, it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to the Pink Milk podcast and the Galactic podcast. I went on both of those shows with Brian on Pink Milk and Lauren on Galactic podcast. And I don't know if I was considered a fill-in because the other hosts weren't there, but it was a good time sitting in with them. So I want to thank those awesome Star Wars podcasts for having me on. A little bit of a TRB flavor.
Substitute teacher.
Hope people enjoyed it. Yeah, so go. Yeah, exactly. I just rolled in the old metal frame with the big TV on top and said, we're watching the video today.
Yeah, exactly.
Turning the lights out. No, but I hope everyone go check them out because they're good people. All right. What's going on? What are we doing today? We have a little top of the show segment. James, what do you think?
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
John, we're doing Will of the Force this week, as you just heard, via one of our graphics. We're going to get into it this week because we have 4 really good questions all coming from patrons of ours, which is awesome because, they're part of the show and they get to add questions in because they are one of our patrons. So we'd like to extend the invitation. If you like TRB and you have the ability to support us, you should also consider becoming a patron, going to patreon.com/resistancebroadcast. There you can support the pod for just $2. And as a thank you to every tier, they receive exclusive weekly bonuses, episodes, perks, all kinds of cool benefits as you move up the ranks. But the support does go, it goes really far for us. Like it allows us to grow, plan out our future. And more importantly, we can keep doing what we're doing exactly how we've been doing it for a long time. So thank you guys so much for all of your support from the three of us. It means a lot. Thank you very much for that. But let's get on to the questions that they submitted to us. And the first one is going to come from General Mike, who goes by Darth Hurricane. General Mike, or Darth Hurricane, wanted to know, they asked us, will we ever see exactly how Grogu escaped the Jedi Temple? Wow. Lacey, go first on this one. What do you think? What do we got?
You know, this is something that I personally would want to see. It's a great question, but I don't think that they will. I think that the Ahsoka Grogu scene where she kind of senses what he went through and kind of explains it to the Mandalorian and all that other stuff was us getting a glimpse of what happened, but I don't know if they're ever going to go into that deep story, at least not right now. I feel like they're just going to leave it open, and I'm okay with that because it gets tricky. You know, as soon as we figured out that that's what happened with him, all of us were like, how did he get out? Who took him? Like, where does that fall into canon and all this other stuff? I think by leaving it open-ended, it doesn't define exactly every single detail, and it lets you kind of leave it open to possibilities.
Yeah, I actually blacked it out. I had a period of time where I was like, I don't think he was even involved. And then I went back and I was like, no, they definitely say it in the show that he was. John, what are your thoughts on us maybe getting to see exactly how Grogu escaped the Jedi Temple?
Yeah, him and Anakin are the same age, right? Isn't that a thing? Or at least very close. Like
was
he's
Anakin
50?
50 when he
Anakin
died?
was like 44 or something like that when he died. 45. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably close anyway. So
yeah,
he was...
I actually do. I think, yeah, he definitely is the same age as somebody else in the show, and I think you're right. It is Anakin.
But yeah, so he was probably like 20 or whatever when all that happened. I don't know, like...
Meanwhile, he's just thinking in his head, he's just going, I never liked that guy. He's such a scumbag.
Yeah,
he didn't like Anakin.
Right. Yeah. They were on rival kickball teams and it didn't go well.
Yeah.
I think we will actually. There's something, at least for me as a fan, really satisfying about seeing eras blended together when it makes sense, and it adds a certain level of realness to those things when you can cross things over in a way that it's like, wow, that existed, that actually happened. He was there during this. It's a little bit like in Back to the Future 2 when you see him going back and interacting, you know, with the environments again, and you see the scenes happening as he's watching it. You're like, that's so cool. It's a little bit like that.
A little bit.
Yeah, that sort of stuff, but without like the time travel. But I just like the idea of just adding a richness to an era by incorporating something that happened in another era. It makes the story, the suspension of disbelief, more powerful for me as a fan. Maybe not for everybody else. I'm just speaking from my perspective. So I think we will see it. I'm just a little nervous about who it is and, you know, who did it. You know, is it going to be a brand new character that they make a video game with? You know, there's a lot of, did he run away with, you know, Cal Kestis and he was a little kid or something? You know, who knows what they do with it, but I think they will in like some sort of flashback as we get to learn a bit more of who Grogu is, because we really don't know yet. And I do agree with Lacey. I like the mystery of Grogu and not giving us everything, because George Lucas was very like, you're not finding out anything about Yoda, like where he came from, what his species name is. That's going to be the one thing. So they got to be careful with that. But, you know, I trust Dave Filoni in being faithful to what Lucas was looking for there. So, but I think we will.
I just feel like it's a reflection of the time we live in, that everybody needs to know every single detail about every single thing.
Oh, and everyone needs an origin story. Oh,
yeah,
man.
I think it's, I don't know. I just feel like when I was growing up and, you know, even in my teens and 20s and stuff, I would take in stories, but I didn't feel the need to get every single detail and every single nuance of said story and character and background. I think that's in the age of Google and Wikipedia and, you know, Wikipedia, that everyone just immediately goes, okay, well, what's the backstory of this person? And I'm guilty of it as anybody else, that I will look something up to the point that I become an expert in 2 days and then I just leave the information behind and move on to the next thing. So I totally get that, but I don't know. I find myself lately, and this probably is somewhat replicates my feelings on spoilers. I find myself pulling back more from having to have every single little thing explained to me, and just enjoying the story for what it is.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree more so with you, Lacey, that they're probably going to avoid this thing, especially since John, you mentioned in the last not the last episode we did, but in the Halloween episode that we did, that one of the scariest moments was the whole like Anakin and the kids and all that. And I think if you're even talking about maybe getting into something where like there was a confrontation and Anakin was going to kill Grogu and stuff, it might get weird. It might not. But I think that you're probably right. And if it ever did happen, I feel like it'd only go as far as like a comic book or something where they might like illustrate it or kind of show kind of what was going on at the time as like a flashback or something. But I don't think we're ever going to get it in any sort of like live action or animated form or anything like any elevated version of the story. I think they're more likely just going to stay away from it. And I think you're right that they had that moment with Ahsoka, and they were just kind of were like, you were there? Whoa. And they're going to let that play in the imaginations of creators, or watchers, I mean. But it is interesting you guys are talking about all that stuff too, because as you guys know, I've been diving into a lot of like Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and stuff, and they talk about a piece of like something that he did pretty regularly, which has influenced a lot of other writers, including George Lucas. But they would just say things as if they existed and not explain them in movies, because it would leave the readers to be like, I want to know more about that. But that was something that Tolkien did a lot. And then you get things in Star Wars like you fought in the Clone Wars, and it's like that's literally like the only time they ever mention it. Or like bounty hunter on Ord Mantell changed my mind, and it's like, is it Mantell?
Who is it?
Yeah,
Mantell. But
the idea is like, sometimes it's better not to know. Like we always say, when are we going to get that story? But it's like part of the lure of these characters is that you never get that story, And
you can make up the story yourself. When you're growing up and you're little, you're like, I used to pretend I was Leia's daughter because that story didn't exist really yet. So it was like, you can go on these adventures and come up with your own things and make it your own kind of space when they aren't. Everything isn't explained.
Yeah, it's like Talladega Nights where they're like, I like to picture my Jesus, with wings.
Exactly. Tuxedo T-shirt.
They'll have their own versions of the story. All right, well, let's move on to the next one here. That was a great question, and obviously we like kind of spun off onto other tangents, but let's move on to the next one here. Commander Rick Villanueva.
What's up, Rick?
Our commander wanted to know, will Ochi of Bastoon appear in any of the post Return of the Jedi Disney Plus shows? He's all over the comics, as he mentions here. So this character is regularly showing up, but is there any chance that we might see him in, say, like a live action setting, kind of in the era that he's been showing up in the comics? John, you're first on this one. What do you think?
I gotta go yes, just because it's an easy, replicatable character. We haven't heard him speak yet, so you don't have to worry about getting a voice actor in who did it prior. You just get someone to wrap their face
Ochi.
Wrap their face in a potato sack and draw a couple holes on it, and there's Ochi of Bastoon. So it's actually an easy Halloween costume too for next year. And we'll get the action figure for that in 2028 or something like that. So that's perfect. So I think it's something that if you don't put a time limit on it, I could definitely see him popping up in something that happens post Return of the Jedi, because like they've done with the prequels, they're going to want to enrich the sequels, and you do that by creating new stories and filling in things. And I'm not saying, like what Lacey said, like I'm not saying I want to find out where Ochi of Bastoon went to high school, but if we get a little bit more of what he was doing when maybe Luke and Lando were on his tail, when maybe we don't see Luke and Lando, but you see him running away from them or hiding out somewhere, I think that'd be kind of cool. So I'm going to say, yeah, I think we will.
Yeah. Lacey, what do you think about Ochi?
I think we will see him again. I think it's an easy thing to kind of throw into one of these shows, whether it be Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett or something in the background, or at a cantina or something that would then tie it to the sequel trilogy. he's obviously a bad dude. He stabs people on camera, like, he's killing Rey's parents. So he's probably done other absolutely horrifying, terrible things. So it would be interesting to see what he does in these shows in live action, because they then relate obviously to Palpatine eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already seen a tie to Palpatine within The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting to me that you guys both said yes on this, because my answer was no for the same reason that I said on Monday's episode, why the Knights of Ren aren't going to show up in this show. I kind of encountered this thing where they're saying, hey, do we want to bring in this character, or could we bring in this character? And they'd be like, why? He's got his own lore, doing this other thing. He's kind of connected to Palpatine and all that other stuff. I don't even think we want to get into that. So I just kind of see them leaving this character out. I don't particularly think he's like a fan favorite. Like, maybe not the best example, but like a Captain Phasma or something where people are like, oh, what a wasted character. I don't think people came out of Rise of Skywalker like,
I need more of Ochi.
I need more Ochi, you know what I mean? And sure, he shows up in the comics or whatever, but I mean, I think that's a place to kind of fill in some fun stuff with different characters and things. I don't think the comics are ever really like doing what the fans are asking for, delivering on that front. So I think he probably has his place right now. And if he ever shows up in live action, it could be cool. Same as the Knights of Ren, but I don't think I'm gonna go no on this one. All right, we got Semper Fi Danny. Danny is wanting to know, will Oscar Isaac and or Adam Driver ever return to Star Wars? And this is, of course, assuming that John and Daisy do as well. But, are we going to see these two characters who were the other big characters in the sequel trilogy show back up? And Lacey, you're up first on this one. Oscar Isaac and or Adam Driver.
Hey, Danny. How's it going? Great question. I think, 6 months ago, I would probably say no, but I'm going to lean towards a yes. For Oscar, definitely. I think he'd come back if Daisy and John do. You can't have, Finn and Rey without Poe, even if it means he's dying or something in the beginning. There has to be something where you explain where this big character in the sequel trilogy went. As for Adam Driver, I don't know how he would work into the story, but that being said, we did comment on how his movies have been going, so he might just take the check if they have a role for him or if he fits in somewhere. I could definitely see him making an appearance as a Force Ghost or a flashback for Rey or something, but I would say probably more likely Oscar than Adam.
John?
Yeah, I don't think Adam Driver is going to come back to Star Wars, because it wouldn't be anytime soon, and I just don't know where his career is going to be when he's like 50 or whatever. So it'd be curious to see.
He's 36 now?
Yeah, 37. Yeah, 38. He's around there somewhere. So I'm not sure about him. I do think Oscar Isaac will come back to honor Daisy and Boyega, because I do think that they still had a good relationship, and like I've been saying, I think it'll be similar to what they were originally going to do with Poe, which was going to be a first act kill, and Poe will go out and the new big bad villain will kill Poe Dameron, and that'll elevate our villain and set the new trilogy off as a vehicle story point of Poe Dameron dying, and sort of one of those like, well, if one of our mains dies this early, all bets are off sort of thing. So I think he'll come back, but for a smaller type of send off. But Adam Driver, for some reason, I'm still thinking no, and I'm honestly a little nervous about Adam Driver coming back, just because of how people just are so possessive over him and his character, and I don't know if like things are starting to calm down a little bit, and I feel like if he comes back a little too soon, all that stuff's going to bubble back up, and all the expectations of world between worlds and is he still alive and blah, blah, and if they say they do bring him back, whatever they do, everyone's gonna be mad again because it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So and they may think that way too, so I'm a little nervous about him, but I'll go with Oscar.
Yeah, I've always had a problem with they were going to kill off Poe Dameron and stuff. I understand that's part of it, but I can't wrap my head around J.J. Abrams not having a trio. Watching the original trilogy and understanding there's 3 of them, the big 3, and then they watch the prequels and there's the 3 characters. And I can't wrap my head around them being like, well, it's really just these 2 characters. And then I guess Poe could be one of them too. Something about that is weird. So I think of him as one of the big 3. And if they were going to do more Star Wars movies where these characters return, I think they won't be the big 3 anymore. And so they could show up and die. I think John, I don't know, I can't remember what you said, Lacey, but I think that idea is spot on, that they could kill off Poe early because he won't be the main characters anymore. But at this point, I would also think that Daisy Ridley wouldn't be either. I don't know. It's tough to say.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, it's a different trio. It's a different Star Wars trilogy.
I was going to actually say, James, that if Oscar Poe was to die in The Force Awakens, I think the idea was the trio would be Kylo Ren, Finn, and Rey, with one of the trio on the bad side. I think that was the dynamic they were considering initially. And then Poe got involved and they liked Oscar.
Yeah, it's possible.
Like yeah.
But anyway, I mean, that opens up the other questions. As far as Adam goes, though, I think is spot on. Force Ghost, maybe, I guess, but really, at the end of the day, I think the character has told his story. You're not going to involve Adam coming back as a younger version of the character, and you're absolutely not going to be able to bring him back as an older version of the character because he's gone. So I just think it's done. I think his character's done, and he's probably the least likely interested in returning. So
I think he's okay with it. Yeah.
So we got one more. I hope you like that answer, Danny. It's kind of rough. But we got one more, and that comes from Chris Van Demal. Is that right? Did I say that right?
Chris, where's my Han Solo?
Chris wanted to know, will we see Ahsoka as a Force ghost beside Anakin's Force ghost, at the end of the Ahsoka series? Wow. That is wild. Bold prediction there. John, would you like to take a stab at this crazy question?
So, because of what we're up against next, I'm just going to do a quick answer, and I'm going to say yes.
Lacey, what's your quick answer? Or
I'm also going to say...
Well,
actually,
you can't say no.
Because I think Ahsoka... I was going to say yes, but I just kind of read that differently in my head. I think Ahsoka's making it to the crossover event, so no.
My plan was to say no earlier this afternoon, and then couple hours later, I reread the show notes and I go, you know what? I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to go with yes as well. Okay. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. Chris, you're going to get your question really expanded into the discussion this week. So good on you. But that's going to end up wrapping Will the Force this week. And John, you can take us into kind of in a way what Chris is pitching here. So yeah, what's up?
Okay, our discussion this week, the fate of Ahsoka Tano.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
So Ahsoka has become one of the most beloved Star Wars characters over the years. In The Rise of Skywalker, she appears as a voice among Jedi, who the rest of them are, I believe, all confirmed dead. So can we assume Ahsoka has passed on by that point? And if so, the question is, how will Ahsoka meet her fate, her demise? So we know Filoni will write it, but when will it happen? In the Ahsoka series? After? Way after? In live action with Rosario Dawson? Back in animation with Ashley Eckstein? Let's head to Speculation Nation, as we do around here, and talk about it. So I answered yes to kick that off because I think this Ahsoka series, they already said it's a limited special series or a limited special event or something like that. It's not going to be a season 2 of Ahsoka. I do know and understand that there is that vague description by Kathleen Kennedy that it's going to build to some culmination event story thing. But we also know that they say things and those things don't end up happening. So who knows?
Yeah. That was when Rangers of the Republic, or Rangers of the New Republic.
Rangers of the New Republic. Yeah. Who knows?
It may still be on.
Right. So, but I think my point is, for some reason, all the things that I'm hearing about and we're learning about this Ahsoka series, you got Anakin coming back. That sounds like a closure moment. Like, now I can go because I've had this moment type of thing. She's going to find Ezra. Ezra is going to be found probably towards the end of this journey. In these types of fantasy stories, there's always that sort of sacrifice. And the show's called Ahsoka, and it's her quest to find somebody else. And with Anakin coming back too, I just feel like this is the big thing for Ahsoka. This is the big one. And how do you have a limited series called Ahsoka, and it's only going to be this one set of episodes, and do anything with her that's bigger than this? And I think she deserves a big exit, and I think this is the exact stage for it. So that's why I'm leaning towards yes. I think things she does in this series will help feed towards that culmination story event, but she won't be a part of it as a physical being. She may be a Force ghost or whatever, and that will explain again why we hear her at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. But I think we end this series with her doing some sort of big, massive Kanan Jarrus type thing that saves Ezra or saves somebody, and she doesn't go without obviously getting her peace, knowing that Anakin came back to the light. It's all kind of, for me, putting a bow on an amazing, very long story in Star Wars being her, the story of Ahsoka Tano. So that's where I'm starting. I don't know if it's, how it's going to happen, but that's where I'm at. So Lacey, you disagreed, so I'm going to go to
let
you.
James go first.
No, I'd rather you go first because I'm kind of with John, so I don't want to reiterate. I want to hear your opposition at least.
And it's also not even opposition. Like, you could say, the question is, when will she meet her demise? So you can take this anywhere you want.
Yeah. I hate to Uno reverse you, but
it's fine. The way I feel about it is that on Monday, when we had the pod race with Andrew, he, had asked about the crossover culmination build-up event. And it's one of those things that was definitely a line that Kathleen Kennedy said on Disney Investor Day. And I know that things change and whatnot, but I would like to think that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni do have a plan, because they've been planning so far in advance with all this stuff, whether it be Luke or Ahsoka or Bo-Katan or all these things. Like, they're years ahead of where they should be with planning. And they knew Ahsoka was going to be involved with this eventually, or at least Dave Filoni did. Maybe not Jon Favreau, but Filoni was like, she's getting in there somehow. So initially, like, if you were to pitch this to me just as it is of the Ahsoka series and without Kathleen Kennedy saying any of that stuff on Disney Investor Day, I would definitely fall back on, yes, of course, this is the story of Ahsoka and this is how she comes to her end, because we know she dies because her voice is at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. And when we talked to Taylor Gray, he had even said that he asked Dave Filoni about that, and Dave Filoni's like, well, obviously she's dead because you hear her voice. So Dave knows how she dies, which is hilarious that we're discussing this and somewhere someone knows what happens.
Yeah, drawing in a notebook somewhere.
Yeah. So that being said, I think the reason I'm falling back on that she won't die is because, to me, it seems super predictable that at the end of this series she would die, because it feels like lately Starbucks. I don't know why I said Starbucks. Star Wars.
I love it.
What is Starbucks doing? Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
My brain is not working.
You need some
Star
Starbucks.
Wars has. It's because I was saying Star Wars will fall back on. Star Wars will fall back on the fact that they're like, oh, you want a heartwarming, emotional story? We're gonna kill these people. Like, I feel like a lot of their stories lately have been like, this person dies at the end. This person's the person you like, we're going to kill them. So I feel like Ahsoka's one of those people that, yes, she absolutely 110, 150, 200% deserves the epic death tale of her demise, you know, akin to a Luke Skywalker and the Rise of Skywalker. For many people felt that way, that was the perfect ending for Luke. I just feel like if she dies at the end of this series, you're going in expecting that. And I don't know if Dave Filoni will fall back on that because he doesn't want fans to assume things. Like, he's always willing to switch the other way just so you don't know what's going to happen. So I feel like the easy answer is to say she's going to die.
You think well, maybe we should do a poll. Do you think more than 50% of people think she's dying in this series?
Yes. Oh, totally. I would assume most people think she is. I'm saying that I feel like
you're saying it feels a little too obvious.
It feels obvious.
Well, yeah, the patterns of Star Wars are there. You have Obi-Wan Kenobi did it, Kanan Jarrus, Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
Luke Skywalker. Han Solo.
So Lacey, before we go with James here, do you have like an idea of like, oh, then I think this is where they're gonna get her. She's gonna go out. Like, is it?
Yeah, I think she's definitely going to come to the end of her story in live action. I don't think it's going to switch back to animated. I don't think that is going to happen, which is interesting because I think they have to obviously tell what happens next in Rebels, but I think that's what they're going to do with this series. I think that's what people have been wanting, and I think that's what this story is.
And you brought up a great point, which bothered me because it like hurt one of my points in the previous episode. No, I love it. I love that stuff. Trust me, it makes me think about things in different ways, so I like that. Podcasting. But you had said, like, well, they did Ashley Eckstein's voice in Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, that's a good point. But I think the reason is they had that stuff done before Rosario was officially cast and coming in and stuff.
Oh, I
like,
totally agree with that. I don't think. I think if Rosario was Ahsoka at this point and say the Rise of Skywalker is coming out next year, it would have been her. Yes. Yeah,
and now I hope they don't do one of those things where they do a special edition and they take out Ashley.
They might switch her out.
Oh God, that would be the death nail. Oh, that'd be so horrible for Ashley.
They did it with other people. I mean, look at the Anakins. They switched out the Anakins.
Yeah. No. Yeah. All right, James. Let's get you in here. They did that with a bunch of voices. You're right. They did it with Boba Fett. Yeah, they did it with a lot of things.
I'm saying actors too, like on-screen actors. They switched people out. So
I've said it before.
Sebastian Shaw. They were just like, wipe him right out.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing is Hayden Christensen, young Hayden Christensen saying they're gonna erase that guy from this movie and put me in there.
Yes.
Or put me in.
I love it.
So James, you shockingly, you and I agreed on something, which is amazing. Very rare on this podcast.
Really quick. Yeah. At the end of Return of the Jedi, it's still older Obi-Wan though, right?
Yeah.
So why do we see younger Anakin?
So I have a thought on that. Because the last time he was truly Anakin was before he became Darth Vader young. So he took on the presence he was the last time he was truly Anakin.
Oh, when he was the light side.
Yeah.
Which then would be debunked if it was the other Anakin.
Well,
anyway.
it's all kind of that, like,
it's a
Return
fan
of the
theory,
Jedi. Are they we're talking about Anakin? He's the Jedi who's returned.
I see you, George Lucas.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
I just think Hayden looked better.
Yeah,
he does.
I mean, how are you gonna look at that face and not put him in the movie? No, I mean, okay, so we're all in agreement that Ahsoka's dying in live action, and that she has grown to be such a big fan favorite character that the animated fans deserve her death to be great and meaningful and have purpose. And as they move her into live action, that is just Lucasfilm saying, hey, we really like what you've done with the place, Mr. Filoni. We're going to go ahead and let you carry on with this character. We think if you can elevate a character from what you did, fans hating her, turning into this favorite character, we're going to let you do what you want. And if it's bringing Ahsoka into live action, if you think you can actually strike even more fans and turn them into Ahsoka fans, then yeah, sure, go for it.
Even farther
we're all
than
there.
That, he turned fans that hated her into the ones that love her the most. That's the craziest thing to me. It wasn't just like, oh, people hated her and then they all loved her. It was like those specific people that despised her are now her biggest fans.
So yeah, so I think we're there, and then you just have to ask the question, just the same as like, you know, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo. They have to die at some point. So when are you going to kill him? If you didn't kill him in the sequel trilogy, then where are they going to die? In a book or something? You know, so it's like you have the perfect platform, and they deserve to have their death on screen. So we're there with Ahsoka, I think. The question then at this point is 3 options. It's the Ahsoka show, the TV series, the special event that we're talking about, or
the Ahsoka
neither.
Show. I like that.
Or neither. She goes even beyond that. But I think the answer is the Ahsoka show. And I think the reason that I'm leaning that direction is because when I think about the culmination, the event, the crossover event that they're talking about, it's very hard for me to not picture, you know, they're making the Avengers. Well, they want to cross over with Iron Man. So how is Iron Man not in the crossover? You know, your title character. How is Thor not in there? How is the Guardians of the Galaxy not in there? You know, you got to have him in there if you're crossing over with that world. My thing right now is thinking that we only know one character in Ahsoka, and that is Ahsoka. But when we see the show, we're going to be introduced to so many other characters that, say, for instance, we're going to get to see a live-action Sabine. We're going to get to see a live-action Ezra. And say those are the characters...
Thrawn.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe Thrawn ultimately becomes this villain that kills Ahsoka, and then you have, I don't know, however it goes, you know, but then they need to call in everybody else. So you get characters from The Mandalorian, you get characters from Rangers of the New Republic, whoever those Rangers are, and they all come together. And the thing that's representing the Ahsoka show is the characters that in a matter of 6 or 8 episodes, we've learned to love them and respect them for who they are, because that was her journey. She was going out to save Ezra, and it's a reintroduction to a character. That's who's, I think, going to represent Ahsoka in that crossover event. But the show itself, could very well have her die. And I don't mean to ramble on too, but the other quick reason is we just got that announcement of Hayden Christensen. And yes, he could show up and he could have a conversation with her and inspire her and the closure and stuff. Or it literally could be as easy as described in our Will the Force question. He's only in the show for the one scene at the end where the two of them stand next to each other as Force ghosts. That's it. That's why he's in the show.
I think that would be upsetting to a lot of people, and I think
like
Filoni
if he doesn't talk.
Yeah, like it would be a letdown because people have been hoping for the conversation for so long, and I think Filoni understands that, and I think he is definitely driven a lot by hope and stuff like that. It doesn't mean he's not going to kill a character. Look what he did with Kanan, right? But I just feel like Anakin is going to have a little more of a purpose in this show. I'm not saying every episode he's going to pop up like Dexter's dad and just like give some advice and stuff or whatever. But Dexter's coming back. I'm excited about that. But anyway, I think it'll be one of those things where, you know, no, stop. You don't talk. Stop it now.
Dee Dee?
I think there's going to be this moment, like middle, like kind of like what I was saying when we just talked about the news on this Hayden coming for the Ahsoka series. It's going to be like middle of the series, and she's going to be struggling in this quest to find Ezra or what have you. Because I don't think Ezra's going to be in a lot of this series. I think he's going to be at the very end. And then they'll carry on with, well, I could be wrong. This is just me speculating. That's what we do, Speculation Nation style. It gets a little wild around here. But I say they find him at the end, and then they can carry on with that actor to future stuff. Culmination. We're going to use that culmination thing as quite the crutch when we talk about these things. But I can see her struggling, halfway through this journey, Lord of the Rings style, and Anakin shows up to like help lift her in a sense and bring her back to belief in what she is as the Jedi. And they named that chapter the Jedi, not by accident. And she's still been kind of going back and forth with whether she wants to consider herself a Jedi or not, or whether she's just this rogue warrior who knows Jedi things. And I think he'll fully, bring her back in that way that we have known to see her in her prime. And I think then you also maybe see him at the end with her too. So it's like a double appearance type of thing. I really struggle with seeing how you can. It's like they say they did like, this is the Luke Skywalker movie, and they call it that, and he doesn't die in that, but then there's something else later and he's in it, but he's not like the person, and then that's where he dies. Like, I don't know. I feel that way about Ahsoka. I just don't know that you have this series, which is going to be a limited run. Like, for me, I'm probably going to be wrong. They probably are going to keep going with Rosario because people are going to love it. But man, for me, it's just like seems so perfect, doesn't it? I don't know. I don't really see you disagree, but
poor example.
The easy
so
choice.
I feel like
to kill her.
Filoni does easy things sometimes, though.
Yeah, but it just feels like such a cop out to have her die in this series.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh.
If you and majority of Star Wars fans are going into this series going, she's gonna die, then they're not good storytellers. If the majority of the audience thinks she's gonna die.
Do we know that's a fact though? Like, we haven't pulsed our finger on the pulse. Do we know for sure that a majority of people think that?
Well, Star Wars kind of has this problem too. Don't forget, like, because it seems like Marvel, for instance.
Yes.
It seems
Star
like
Wars.
Marvel is always moving forward, but Star Wars skips back, and we know how those stories end. Like, did anybody know that Anakin was going to turn to Darth Vader by the end of this trilogy? Yeah, we all knew it. We wanted to see how it happened. So even if we knew for whatever reason that she was dead by the end of this series, we don't necessarily know that it's going to happen, but you got to think that's the place it's going to happen.
Like, you mean if it was called like The Death of Ahsoka Tano, the series was called that, we would still want to watch it. Like the Death of Superman comics.
Yeah,
we all knew he was going to die, but yeah.
But I'm
actually
glad you're taking a stance against us. Like, we're not convincing you. Like, because
I just feel like it's one of those things that you don't need to end a show or movie in Star Wars with someone dying. And I feel like that's what has been the crutch and fallback of all these stories in the past Disney era, is that someone always has to die. And this falls back on other franchises too, like Harry Potter and stuff, like where characters would just die for the sake of dying, or Hunger Games. And you're like, what is the point of this character dying? Oh, to show you the emotional weight and the importance of this person dying. Well, if everyone dies all the time, that's a very unhopeful ending of this story, that everyone dies. So my question is, why does she have to die?
Right?
Hold on. Why does she have to die that way? Why can't she die later and old in her bed like Rose in Titanic? Why does she have to die and like an out there, everyone's exploding, like she got shot, like, oh God, I'm dying. Like, why does it have to be that? Because it doesn't. And I feel like that's the easy choice to say, hey, she's going to sacrifice herself at the end of this series. She's going to go down guns blazing type thing. Like, it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, but Lacey, Luke didn't die that way. He died with peace and purpose, right? And he wasn't like in the rocking chair. He was still like.
I don't think Luke had to die. So you're
that's true. You don't.
But to your point, this would be more like Luke sacrificing himself at the end of Return of the Jedi. More so.
No,
like,
Vader did instead.
No, but what I'm saying is that this is more to her point, is that in order to give Luke this really good story, he didn't have to die at the end of Return of the Jedi. He was able to live, and it was fine that he lived at the end of that story, and that was the end of the story.
We still got the happy ending.
He lived.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree, but I just feel like
I'm
in these
saying like Vader
stories...
had to sacrifice himself to die. Luke had to sacrifice himself to die. Han Solo ultimately sacrificed himself to die. Jyn and Cassian sacrificed himself to die. Ben Solo sacrificed his own life to die. Like, come on, let's get a new story in here and not just constantly be like, they must sacrifice themselves for the greater good. Like, why?
Well, wait.
It's fantasy storytelling.
I missed your list there. Were some of those characters killed? Like murdered?
Huh?
I missed some of the names that you said. Were any of those characters?
So
were
Luke
they
sacrificed himself. Jyn and Cassian went to Scarif knowing they were going to die, sacrificing themselves for the greater good of getting the plans.
Sort of.
They knew they were going to die.
I didn't think they
knew
knew well, they knew it was a suicide mission, so to speak, but
Han Solo had to have known at some point that he was like, this is not going to end well.
No, see, I think
that wasn't a
Han Solo's
sacrifice,
an
though.
example.
I'll fight people on that.
Yeah,
Like,
I think he was murdered. I think
Han Solo was murdered.
Yeah,
And that's
having
fine.
a character
You can have your view.
having a
Ben
character
Solo
be killed.
sacrificed himself for Rey.
So
No,
this is
I agree with you. I understand. We don't have to go through every example.
yeah. So this is interesting. I would say Han was murdered, Luke sacrificed himself,
fine.
and Leia
Whatever.
died peacefully of old age. Like, it's kind of interesting.
No,
I think.
Leia sacrificed herself for Ben.
Yeah, I agree with that. She gave all of her life force, to reach him. But I guess my point is, like, with these, like, stories, and you have, like, a big character like Ahsoka, like, so how do we take in the end of her life? Is it just in a epilogue where it's like, and then Ahsoka, went to live off and she lived happily ever after and died, and it's in like a book or something? Like, I feel like that's anticlimactic. I get what you mean, Lacey. You're right that this happens a lot. But also let's, not forget that Filoni does repeat a lot of the themes and stuff that George Lucas did too, which does not bode well for Ahsoka in this situation. Also, it's just like, I'm not saying, like, I'm not in a disagreeing way asking this question. I'm just saying, like, how would you see it play out then? Because she dies. So is it just she's retired somewhere? And you know what I mean? Like, and you may not have any thoughts on it, but I'm just curious what you think as someone who doesn't want the big hero death.
Are you asking me or James? Because James had something to say.
Well, I think it was
but-
asking you, Lacey, but I kept trying to jump in. I'm sorry. All I was going to say is I was going to propose an idea of how I could see it being written where she doesn't die, but she still does the, like, ninja Ronin sort of walk off into the sunset, and that is literally the end of the story, because they just make a note there and then that they're never gonna tell more. You know what I mean? Just the same way as, like, Yoda just disappeared, and it's like, how do you explain that? Like, what happened there? There's a possibility that she just walks away, and they never show her as a Force ghost. Like,
I mean,
they
that's a
just
good point.
never
Yoda died of old
plan
age.
to ever
That's
bring
true.
her back. Because the mystery and the coolness of her story is that she did the, like, Japanese style, like, walked away, and she became legend. We never ever found the end of her story. We never know what it is, and they just have to make a rule that, like, it's never going to be told.
Do the parallel to her walking away from the Jedi Order, and this time she's walking away like that she completed her journey, sort of thing?
I think it kind of feels a little bit like Luke without the disappearing thing. Like, he just, I don't know. Maybe that's a bad example, but to me, I felt like Luke was staring at the suns, and he completed his journey, and he didn't have anything more to offer the world at this point.
Because I want to hear, like, because there's a big period of time.
Hold on. I just have to. You think that he just left because he had nothing to offer the world? His energy was gone. He was dead.
Yeah.
You just said Luke left because he had nothing to offer the world.
Both of those.
That's not why he left. That's not why he died, because he had nothing to offer the world.
He gave everything. That's what it was.
He gave his life force to project himself to let the resistance flee. He didn't say, I have nothing to give to the world.
He's like, I'm bored, I'm out.
Yeah, what?
No, so I'm trying to ask Lacey this question.
That's not what I'm meaning exactly.
I don't care about Luke right now.
Yeah.
This is about Ahsoka. Come on, speak her name. Enough with the Luke. Jeez, James. No. So, Lacey, there's a big gap of time between when this Ahsoka series is going to happen and Rise of Skywalker. So you have a lot of room to play with here.
Mm.
Like, if you had to guess, like, because she's probably in her 40s now when the Ahsoka series is happening. If you had to guess, do you think it's going to be a Yoda situation for her? Like, right before the time of the sequel trilogy where she's maybe in her 70s and that's a little old for her, and I don't know how long Togrutas live, but Like, is she gonna die under a blanket like Yoda? Which, you know, he died peacefully. Is someone gonna be there to speak with her? Like, that's something I didn't consider. I'll be honest. So, what do you think?
I think that we don't need to see every character die on screen. And
I know that. I'm asking you for Ahsoka.
But I think Ahsoka falls into that reasoning. I don't think that we need to see her die on screen, and I think James gave a perfect explanation of her walking off into the sunset and then just leaving it open to interpretation of how she dies. I don't think we need to see her die.
In a way, this kind of is similar to what people wanted out of Ben Solo. Like, how do you have that character live? Doesn't he have to answer for? And I think a lot of people were just like, just let him go off and just never tell the end of his story. Just let him be.
That's
still
fine,
alive.
but we know she's dead.
We don't know she's dead, but we know she's dead.
We do know she's dead. What do you mean?
I don't think we know she's dead.
First of all, she's a Force voice at the end of the Rise of Skywalker.
She's a voice at the end of the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, which is I'm
dead.
saying that's.
And then Taylor Gray told us that Filoni told him that.
Yeah, Taylor Gray did say that Filoni told him she was dead.
Oh, all right, well, whatever. But I don't. That doesn't mean she's dead.
On
that
this
just means
very
she's
show,
probably dead.
No. Like, she's dead. She's definitely dead.
She's dead.
Because the conversation we had with Taylor was about, like, all the voices were people that were dead. And he goes, so Ahsoka must be dead then. And Dave was like, yeah, she's dead.
And you can't be very dead or a little dead. You're just dead. And Ahsoka's dead.
What? Why do you keep saying that?
Because James is, like, trying to work away. We were told literally by the guy. And James is still trying to, like, well.
Hey, I don't remember him saying that. I remember him saying that Dave doesn't give answers, and that that Ezra, like he himself, Taylor Gray thinks that means
he said, well,
she's
every
dead.
other voice there is dead.
Except, so the question was,
I think he's saying the same thing you guys. Like, it obviously, surely that obviously means she's deid, right?
Hold on.
But it's not real confirmation, right?
No, it is confirmation, because the whole conversation was with Taylor Gray. He was asking Filoni. Hold on.
But how is he confirmation?
Hold on. He was asking Filoni why Ezra's voice wasn't heard. And Filoni said, because it's all people that have died.
Right.
And Ezra's not dead.
He said Ezra's still alive, yeah.
That was the confirmation. Yeah. So that's why, thus, Ahsoka is dead.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the reason why it even came up, because he was asking about the future of Ezra. And then it tied to Ahsoka and Kanan and all those other people. Anyway, I digress. I took that on a tangent. I didn't mean to.
No, I think we covered a lot of it. So do you have anything else you want to round out there, Lacey?
I just think that Ahsoka's not going to die in this series because it's the easy cop-out answer. And I might be totally wrong, and I might be sitting there in the season finale crying my eyes out, being like, they actually killed her. I can't believe they did this again to me. And that's probably going to happen. But I have hope that Dave Filoni won't fall into this Star Wars trap of just killing people that we like all the time. Because it just seems like the easy choice. And I think that she's going to go to that special event that Kathleen Kennedy brought up at the Disney Investor Day, because she has that relationship with the Mandalorian and with Grogu. And I think you can't have that culmination crossover event, storytelling event, without having her there. Because
without your title character.
Huh?
I said without your title character.
Correct. Because you have all these side characters that, James, I think you're completely correct. They're going to introduce a ton of new people, Ezra, Thrawn, whoever. In addition to other people we haven't met yet. And I don't think you can have them connect in a way.
This is gonna be wild, because this series can go in so many ways. That's why I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, and I think that you could, on the other side of that equation of death, I think you could have a Sabine die in this series, and it would drive Ahsoka to be even more important in the bigger event.
I wonder if we should bring back the challenge for these series that we know are only one series and done, that we did for the movies.
Oh, the
those
challenge
are always
is like,
fun.
Well,
those are always fun.
The guessing game things.
I think they'd be.
I will say this discussion, not like tonight, but because it was proposed and I was thinking about it all day.
Sure.
And this question too, like all of this has kind of made me rethink what they're going to do with Thrawn, because I think most people think, well, he's the villain and he's going to be the villain of this thing,
right,
and all that. And I've kind of been like, man, if you're reading the books, Timothy Zahn does not treat that character like a villain, and what we could see is a surprise when they show up that Ezra and Thrawn are like buddies, or they've come to some sort of terms.
Yeah, because it's
I think that would be an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But now that I'm starting to picture like Ahsoka dying and building up these characters and what the culmination event would be, I'm starting to lean towards they're going to try to. And I'm not saying they're catering to, but I think they're going to try to elevate Thrawn to a bigger, badder villain, as if he kind of existed the same way he did in Legends, and be like, he's the guy right now that's doing a lot within the Empire. I think they could go that route with it, and make him the thing that the Mandalorian has to team up with the Rangers of the New Republic, who has to team up with Ahsoka, and all of them have to go after this Thrawn guy. Because Thrawn's first mention was not in Ahsoka, it was in the Mandalorian. So now, if you're only watching that show, you want to know who Thrawn is. So if he's just like a good guy in the Ahsoka show, I don't see how it all matters. I feel like they're going to also mention Thrawn and Rangers in the New Republic, and then you're going to like really get him, in the big
the other thing too
event.
is the Moff Gideon character was always very strategic, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is he planning? And then we saw a very different side of him in season 2. Thrawn could be that one step further.
I mean, I think this is an opportunity for Filoni to be like, we already have a master villain. I've messed with him before. I understand him. And I'm bringing a lot of these live action characters. This is my opportunity. Yeah. And Legends fans are going to go nuts. Like, yeah.
We'll see. All right. Well, let us know what you think about the fate of Ahsoka. Very curious to see what everyone thinks after this discussion. Give us your thoughts. If you're on Twitter, quote tweet the episode. Let us know when you think Ahsoka's going to bite it. When is Ahsoka going to Akroka? Is a good way to put it. Had to throw one in. Jeez, everyone was fired up about the dad jokes last week. Jeez.
Can I just tell you, James, that every time Ahsoka comes up in conversation at home or like on the internet or on anything, Matt goes, Ahsoka Tano.
Oh, really?
What was that again?
So I edited a video of Lacey and I like slowed her down.
It was the two of us playing the quote game. Because James was away.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to only do movie quotes. And I did Ahsoka Tano. It was one of the early versions that we were still trying to figure out.
I think I edited myself going like, or somebody being like, movie. And then it cuts to her and she's like, Ahsoka Tano.
And John is so disappointed that he didn't know the quote. And it was right. So anyway... Matt
says
who
are you? I remember that.
I'm not even kidding. Once a week, he'll say it to me. Ahsoka Tano.
That's great.
Oh, man. All right. Well,
we might have to repost that video, by the way, now that we've brought it up.
If we can find it,
I think I have it somewhere.
Right. We're going to turn our focus back to Ahsoka's master in just a moment here as we hand the keys to Lacey to drive us home.
All right, guys, it's time for resistance transmissions. Boop, boop, beep, boop, beep, beep. So the way that this works, every week, every once in a while, John puts up a crazy, wacky situation on Twitter, and you guys give your answers. And I don't know what the scenario is. So let's see how this goes. All right, the scenario is Force Ghost, Anakin, and Luke are at a cantina together. People come up to Luke to congratulate him for defeating the evil Darth Vader, not knowing he's Anakin.
That guy sucked.
Matt sucks.
Yeah.
What does an awkward Anakin say under his breath? Ooh. Okay, first up is Joey Sack, at Joey Sack. Hey, Joey. He said, "This is what I get for not learning about the high ground."
That damn high ground.
Next is Crojo Diesel at Geeky Guy 977. What up?
What up?
They said, I hate people. I think I'll adopt a Rancor. Always go with the Rancor.
I think that's John.
Cal.
I think that's Joey's husband, John.
Oh, nice. Hi, John. Next is Kale B at Luke's Green Saber. Kyle said, try spinning. That's a good trick. And flings them across the bar with the Force.
Oh, still a little dark side in Anakin there.
Feisty.
Still, yeah.
Next is Alex Zukis at Zubaka. Hey, Alex. He said, Anakin, knowing about the hidden Sith fleet. Don't thank him yet. That's what I did.
All those Pop-Tarts.
That reminds me of The Rise of Skywalker when the girls cheered that Ben
Oh, yeah.
cheered that Rey came back to life, and I just went, don't cheer yet.
Oh, right.
And I was sitting right there, and I'm like...
That was literally under my breath, and I didn't mean to say it, and I was sitting next to James. Anyway, don't cheer yet. The Fright Sons at Bright Sons Media, what's up? They said, they're congratulating you, but I did all the heavy lifting.
Oh, I get it. Because of the Emperor.
Correct. Next is Chicago Force at Chicago Force SW. What's
What
up?
does SW stand for?
I have no idea. Weird. Are you being serious? You can't be serious right now. All right. They said I was the Bunta Eve champion at 9, but whatever. I find like this would
like
definitely
people
be a
who-
John answer. Like if John was Anakin, this would be his answer.
Why?
No,
What is
yeah.
that? Why? Why?
I agreed with her immediately. I was like, yeah, that
Why?
sounds like something you would say.
Why?
Because it just sounds like something funny you would say that you'd be like, well, I did this, but forget that. You say stuff like that all the time.
You would mumble, ever
Yeah.
heard of Make Solo 2 happen under your breath?
No. When I debuted at 12-year-old majors, I faced 12 batters and struck them all out. But whatever.
I just feel like you have a lot of fun accomplishment stories that I don't have. So like you throw out this story of like there was this one time that anyway. More 5150.
I'm desperate for adoration, I guess.
I didn't say that.
I
At
did.
more
Yeah, you're
51
desperate for adoration.
Oh my God.
Just kidding, man.
What's up? They said, I find your lack of knowledge of what really happened disturbing.
Yeah,
Now
there
that's
you go.
something I would say.
Now
That's
that,
something Poe Dameron says in Terrifying Tales. He's like, that's
It would
not
be-
how it happened.
it would be interesting, like, because why would Anakin stop talking like his adult self all of a sudden just because he's not in his suit anymore and he's a good guy? Like, so it'd be interesting to hear Anakin talk still a little like Vader in a way.
Imagine he just like is like talking like this because he has gotten used.
Bartender.
Next is Mike Rumor at Drum Jedi. Hey Mike, he said, big deal. You're going to die on a rock.
Oh.
You know, that one hurts a
Wow.
lot, especially after our discussion. That one hurts.
Especially after knowing that Luke's just like, I don't care.
Yeah, no, he has nothing left to live for. What was it that you said, James?
I stand by that.
Oh.
That's the end of his
You
story.
said, no, but the way you phrased it, it was phrasing of he just didn't see the point. It wasn't that. It was something
No,
don't
else.
care
John
anymore.
said, I don't see the point in this. I said, I don't know, something along the
He
lines
had nothing left to give. That's what it was.
Yeah, he had nothing left to give. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Guys, thank you so much for your answers. We really
I stand by
appreciate it. If you want to be on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN and look for hashtag Resistance Transmissions. John?
Okay. Thank you, Lacey. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. It means a great deal to us. So thank you all so much. Make sure you do subscribe. Make sure you do subscribe to the show on your preferred audio platform. We hit a big milestone for us on Spotify. So I want to thank everybody who's been following us over there. We've been seeing a big uptick there, so it's very cool. Also, if you're an Apple user, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google Play, wherever you get your audio podcast, and of course on video, youtube.com/Star Wars Newsnet videos. Make sure you go to StarWarsNewsNet.com for all of your Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. Like James said at the top, anyone who's able to support us on Patreon, thank you. And we have to give a special shout out To our generals and our spice runners, Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, John RISI, Jetta Rosewater, Paul Olsen, Jake Houchins, Oliver Lewis, Frank Grande, Haz ASLAM, Joe Ritchie, Darth Hurricane, John Charlton, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Joey Mayfield-Stewart, Nathan Shank, and Val TRICHKOV, our generals. Now our Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Double C Chris, Kendall Gelner, Ryan WAARA. You're up next on the Spice Run, buddy. Get ready. Dave HORNAK, Micah Harrison, and Thomas Hennessy. Thank you all for your support and all of our patrons. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, writing and editing at StarWarsNewsNet.com, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies, with my best friend Mike, who I'm actually seeing, saw this past weekend for the first time in 4 years. So I'm very excited. Yes, we're dating.
My friend Mike, who I'm actually seeing.
We might as well. I mean, we get along like peas and carrots. All right, Lacey.
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram, not seeing anyone because I'm in my house.
Seeing your baby soon.
Sure. That was a weird phrase, but yes, correct.
Yeah.
James. Yeah, for me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks.
All right. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. We'll be back with you Monday morning, as always, because we like to be here for you, right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.